Hey everyone, Alan here, just making a video to go through two kind of things that popped up from one kind of question on the page today. So Sharon Gagan had posted a comment today, or a question about asking if like eating too much protein will make you gain weight instead of lose weight. And I think it came from maybe a comment or a remark from someone at work about she's obviously made changes to her diet recently and it made her kind of question it. So I'll answer that first and then go through maybe some other things. But yeah, I mean, like, and what I said in the comments back is, and what you can say to anyone is like, too much of anything will make you gain weight. So it doesn't matter whether it's carb, protein, or fat. I mean, the only way you gain weight is if you're in a calorie surplus. So at the end of the day, when everything is totted up, you've burned a certain amount of energy, you've consumed a certain amount of energy. If you've consumed more than you burned, you'll gain weight. That doesn't really matter if it comes from carbs, fats, protein. Now, when we look at energy of foods, like carbs and protein are the exact amount of calories per gram. So there's 4 calories for every gram of carb or protein you eat, and then there's 9 calories for every gram of fat you eat. So, I mean, if you looked at it that way, fat is more than double the amount of calories per than carbs and protein. So obviously you can eat a lot more calories fairly quickly in fats because it's highly palatable food. Usually, you know, it's tasty, so then you eat a lot of it. So then like that sends your calories up, and that's really the stem of why people have been led to like fear fat, and because years ago when people were trying to fight the weight, like people gaining weight and obesity and everything, people were like, well, it makes obvious sense to cut down on fat because that's more than double the calories than carbs and protein. But they kind of missed a few beats by doing that. But essentially that's what happened. People were like, fat contains lots of calories. If we cut fat, you're going to eat less calories, you're going to lose weight. And then things have kind of changed and people have been a little bit more knowledgeable about it and are able to manipulate other things. But essentially, it really doesn't matter what you eat in terms of, if you eat too much food, you could be eating the healthiest food in the world and be eating good carbs, eating good fats, eating protein. If you eat too much, you gain weight. And similarly, people can eat a really shitty diet and lose weight. And you probably know of people that do that. So, yeah, there's nothing about protein there's nothing about any one food really that makes it like that's inherently bad. That's a weight gaining food. Bad foods tend to be foods that are very high calorie or a mixture of fat and sugar, like a mixture of fat and carbs, because then they're highly palatable, they're like really tasty, and they're, you can eat a lot of them quite easily, so that sends your calories up. Whereas when we go through like all of the diets like that have ever been around or anything, it's rare that protein is the thing that people kind of think that you can have too much of. Like if anything, people are eating too little protein. I'm probably eating too little protein because it's hard to do, and that's why we try and get people to eat protein at every single meal. I mean, really, out of the people you know, the only people that are probably getting adequate protein each day are like high-level athletes, people that are training really hard and then they're creating that demand for the protein all of the time. And they'll usually be able to get in like their protein numbers. So like, and we've had it before where people have kind of asked the question, is this too high protein or something? But really, like for what we're trying to achieve and everything, like, and we have you at like 1.5 times your body weight to double body weight in grams of protein per day, it's not even really considered a high protein diet. It's higher than the average, but the average is too low and it's poor. I mean, if we're going to overeat on any one macronutrient, it would ideally be protein, because protein is for building muscle. Protein is going to keep you fuller for longer. It'll have a positive impact on your blood sugars, and like it's going to keep your metabolism ticking over. Technically, there's a higher thermic effect from eating protein than from eating carbs and fats. So really, like, protein is the brilliant macronutrient, the kind of best one in terms of body composition. It's the most important one for body composition. I mean, there are some when we look at food, it's quantity number one and then quality. And within protein, you can have high quality proteins and low quality proteins. So if you're only getting your protein from like a low quality mince, or only getting your protein from like a really fatty pork or bacon or stuff like that, obviously the issue there isn't the protein, it's really that it comes along with all of the additional fats and stuff. So I don't really know where it would come from that people would be like, you're eating too much protein. The only real people that would ever tend to come from is usually like an old like granny type thing or like an old mammy type thing of being like, oh, that's too much protein. That's just not really based on anything. It's just saying that. Or doctors who like rarely give good nutrition advice, but doctors what might say about protein, particularly red meat, because red meat contains cholesterol, but like your dietary intake of cholesterol has little to no impact on your blood cholesterol. So that myth has been disproven. Same with eating too many eggs. So like doctors might say, oh, your if your blood pressure is high and your cholesterol is high or something, they'll immediately be like, oh, you need to cut down red meat, cut down on eggs. But that's not really founded in anything either. So that's probably the only example of where I could think that that might come from. But I mean, hopefully that kind of clears that up. If you're going to like, it's really about overeating, and like for someone to gain weight, they have to be in a surplus, so they've overeaten. It doesn't really matter what they've overeaten on. Out of everything they're going to overeat on, protein is going to do the least amount of damage, because if anything, it might keep you fuller for longer, and if you've done some exercise, it will go towards building muscle or protecting the muscle that you do have, helping you recover. So it does all of that wonderful things for your body, whereas like carbs and fats in excess will just be kind of stored as energy, and that storage of energy is going to be as fat. So yeah, but I mean, if there's a follow-up question, or if there's more information maybe about maybe where her thought process was coming from or something, but hopefully that's enough to kind of reassure you in terms of what we're doing in terms of the protein and that. But yeah, I'm sorry I had to deal with that anyways, but I'll make another video now because this one's long, but just about that kind of opinions and stuff like that people have to deal with nutrition.